Hello and welcome. Today, we're jumping into a massive challenge that pretty much every modern business is facing. How on earth can your financial planning keep up when the world seems to change by the minute? Well, we're going to dive into a really powerful solution called Agile Finance. So let's start with a question that probably hits a little too close to home for a lot of you. You know the drill. You spend months, maybe a whole quarter, crafting that perfect annual plan. It gets signed off in December, and then what happens? By February, it already feels totally disconnected from what's actually going on. Is that massive foundational document your whole business relies on already obsolete the second it's printed?
And this, right here, shows you the core of the problem. You see, traditional finance was built for the world on the left, a stable, predictable place where you could pretty much assume things would move in a straight line. But we live in the world on the right, a world full of volatility, constant geopolitical surprises, and technology that disrupts everything overnight. The old map just doesn't work for this new territory.
So if that old architecture is crumbling, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to the Agile response. And this isn't about just patching up the old system. We're talking about building a completely new financial architecture, one that's designed from the ground up for uncertainty. Okay, so what is Agile Finance really? Here's the core definition. It's all about taking three key ideas and applying them to finance. 1. Delivering things in small, manageable steps. 2. Getting fast feedback on what's working and what's not. And 3. Empowering teams to actually make decisions without getting stuck in endless bureaucracy. The key word here is disciplined. This isn't chaos, it's a new kind of structure.
And this table just lays out the whole paradigm shift perfectly. On the left, you've got the traditional mindset, right? Fixed annual cycles, controls that only catch a problem after it's already happened, static targets that can become totally irrelevant in a month. But on the right, you see the agile mindset. Instead of annual cycles, you have rolling horizons, constantly looking ahead. Instead of after-the-fact controls, you have real-time visibility into what's happening right now. And instead of static targets, you have adaptive thresholds that can actually adjust to reality.
All right, a new mindset is great, but what does that actually look like day to day? How does it change the work? Let's get into how the core functions of finance are totally transformed when they start operating in a state of continuous flow.
First up, the big one, the absolute cornerstone of traditional finance, the budget. In an agile world, that rigid, year-long, set-in-stone budget, it gives way to something much more dynamic and responsive, the rolling forecast.
Now, the most important change here isn't just the tool, it's how you use it. Traditionally, if you were off budget, that meant someone messed up, and variance analysis was basically a blame game. But in an agile system, a variance isn't a mistake, it's a signal. It's new information. The focus shifts completely from just hitting some fixed number to understanding the drivers behind the numbers and, most importantly, learning from those signals. Next up, let's talk about how we spend money on big projects. The old way, you'd approve a huge project, lock in all the capital up front, and basically make a massive, irreversible bet based on what you thought you knew at the very beginning. Agile Finance flips that model on its head.
It works like this. Instead of one giant bet, you make a series of small ones. You release a small chunk of funding to get things started. Then you pause. You review actual, measurable progress, and, this is the most important part, what the team has learned. Based on that real-world data, you either release the next chunk of funding or, and this is key, you stop the project. It makes it so much easier to pull the plug on ideas that aren't panning out, which helps fight that dangerous sunk cost bias we all fall into.
And you know what? Risk management gets the same kind of upgrade. The traditional risk register is often this static document, a snapshot in time that gets looked at maybe once a year. Agile Finance, on the other hand, treats risk as a flow variable, something that's constantly changing. Scenario analysis isn't some big annual event. It's a continuous process that helps you see the real-time impact of your decision. So when you transform the process this much, it naturally leads to a transformation of the people, right? The role of the finance professional has to evolve a lot. They really have to shift from being a controller, a gatekeeper of the past, to becoming a catalyst for the future. I mean, just look at the contrast here. The old role was all about looking backward, reconciling accounts, keeping score on what already happened. The new role? It's forward-looking, it's strategic. The finance pro becomes a real business partner, an internal analyst, even a decision scientist, who uses data to help the whole organization make smarter, faster choices. And to step into that new role, you're going to need a new set of skills. It's not enough to just be a great accountant anymore. The really essential skills for the modern finance professional are things like data literacy, being able to think critically with statistical reasoning, and the art of decision framing, which is all about helping the business ask the right questions in the first place.
Now, a question I hear all the time is, wait a minute, doesn't all this speed and flexibility weaken governance? Doesn't it reduce control? And the answer is a hard no. Governance doesn't go away. It just evolves. It moves away from slow, rigid bureaucracy and toward radical transparency, where all the assumptions are out in the open and every decision leaves a clear trail.
So let's pull all of this together. We've seen how the mindset changes, how the core functions transform, and how the people have to evolve. But why does any of this matter? What's the real bottom-line advantage that this new architecture gives you?
This quote from our source material just nails it. This isn't about moving fast and breaking things. It's about building a system that lets you shrink the time it takes to respond to change while, and this is the critical part, maintaining or even strengthening the integrity of your financial controls.
So ultimately, it's a false choice. You don't have to pick between speed and control. The entire point of Agile Finance is to deliver both. By increasing visibility and using real-time data, you actually gain more control, which in turn gives you the confidence you need to move faster.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. For decades, we've thought of financial rigidity, sticking to that static plan no matter what, as a source of safety and control. But as we stare down at an increasingly uncertain future, you really have to ask yourself, is that rigidity no longer a strength, but maybe, just maybe, the ultimate risk?